It could be a lot worse, but in the end, it just wasn't very good. What was the point? Like, what even happened in this? I don't know. This is definitely a book that I will never think about again. Hi, my name is Angel. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to episode 9 of reading different subgenres. It feels weird because I didn't do an episode last month. I just read Halloween books for October, which I feel like doesn't really count as a subgenre, but it was like my sort of installment to this series, so it feels weird to be back with episode 9, which, as you guys can tell, the subgenre for this month was haunted house books. I don't think I really need to explain further into what that is. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's books that have to do with haunted houses. So I read 6 books in this video. Without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into it. The lighting's not great in here. I look like a mess. The camera's gonna die, but I'm gonna try to do this update before it dies. But I look like this because I just got back from my post-work walk this evening, and I wanted to tell you about what I was reading today because I'm going to sit down and finish it shortly. But I started You Should Have Left by Daniel Kellman. I don't know how you pronounce that. This one, I actually saw the movie a few years ago and didn't realize it was a book until recently, and it's a haunted house book. It is very short. It is very just like little in general, but basically our main character is a screenwriter. So we are reading like his journal. So it kind of goes back and forth of him like writing out these scenes for the movie that he's currently writing, but then he's also talking about like what he did during the day, and then he's also talking about some other strange things that are going on. So our main character is with his wife and his 4-year-old daughter, and they are renting this home in a very, very small town, and it's a very isolated home. It is at the end of a very, very long and winding road, and the house is changing around him, so it seems from his journal entries. This little cat is misbehaving, so she's gonna sit here while I talk about the rest. I really don't have a lot to say. I am almost halfway through it right now. I'm about 50 pages in, and I think it's like 112 total, so it's not a very long story. But I'm curious to see where it goes. I'm not totally loving it at the moment, but I think it's going to be almost a descent into madness maybe, and things are going to get weird the further into the story that we get. This is translated from German, which I think is really interesting, and overall I'm just curious to see where it's going to go because honestly I don't remember. Like, I remember parts of the movie and parts of like the twist, but I don't remember how it ends or like what happens for our main character, so I'm interested in that. I don't remember, like I said, I don't remember much of the movie, but I feel like in the movie I only remember it being him and his daughter. I don't remember his wife being there, but maybe something will happen to his wife. I don't know, or maybe I'm just misremembering things. So I'm going to take my shower, I'm going to eat food, and I'm going to finish this book and give you guys my final update later. Everybody say goodbye to Molly. Say bye. I feel like I was talking so quickly in my last update because I was trying to beat the camera before it died, and I feel like I didn't really say a lot, but I'm really, really sorry because I'm here again. I finished the book and I still have like nothing to say because nothing really happens in this book. Like, we are following this guy, his wife, his kid. They get this house on Airbnb, and he is just documenting everything in his journal, but then he's also trying to write this movie, and then weird things start happening, and then he starts talking about the weird things that are happening, and then more weird things happen, and then the book just like ends pretty much. There is not really like any point where you can fully grasp like what's actually happening. It's all done very confusing, and it's all very abstract, and I just didn't really enjoy it. Like, I feel like this doesn't do anything differently from any other like haunted house or like weird house type of book. Like, I don't think this does anything unique or different or particularly interesting. The characters themselves, I feel like, had no depth to them. I didn't connect to the characters, I didn't connect to the story, I didn't connect to the setting that we were in. I just feel like there just like wasn't really that much to this book. If you like things that are weird and abstract where you are kept in the dark just as much as the characters and things are confusing and strange, then maybe you could enjoy this one. It is pretty short, as I've already mentioned. It takes like an hour to read. I mean, depending on like how quickly you read, but I would say between an hour and 2 hours. Like, it goes by very, very fast. Ultimately though, I just really have no feelings towards this book. Like, weird things happened. This guy talked about the weird things happening. The book ended and there was really no conclusion or explanation or anything that really is worth it to me. Like, this is definitely a book that I will never think about again after today, probably. And I think that's probably why, like, I don't remember the movie, because like there's nothing memorable about the story at all. Sad to say, but I think I'll be giving this 2 stars. There are people that love it. Obviously, it got made into a movie, so there's an audience for it out there, but just know that it's short and confusing, and that's really it. Enough of that now. I know that was another very quick update, but let's move on to book number 2. Hello, I have started book number 2, which is another short one. I am just over halfway through it now. I'm on page 90 of Haunt Sweet Home by Sarah Pinsker. This just came out, I think, in September, so it's a pretty new release and one that I wanted to pick up anyways, so I figured why not squeeze it into this video. So this is an interesting book. It's basically this reality TV show that is sort of like part home makeover, like home renovation, but it's also like a ghost TV show. So from what I understand is they get these people that are buying properties in order to renovate them. A lot of times they are older properties, and then the crew goes there to film like the renovation, but then they also are doing like a paranormal investigation, and it's all a hoax. Like, they are forcing these hauntings and like they're faking everything. During the night they do like the ghost parts, and then during the day they do like the renovations, I think, and they look into the history of the property and the home, and they pretty much just craft a story and then create these incidents around their false narrative. So I feel like it was a little bit confusing at first. I know when I read the synopsis and it says it's ghost hunting / home makeover reality TV show, and being like, what, like literally what does that mean? And I'm still like not fully sold on the concept. So that's the general idea. Our main character that we're following is Mara, I believe is her name, and she gets a job as a production assistant because her cousin is actually like the host of this TV show and like the one behind it all. So she has the in, and he gets her this job there, and she is working the night crew, and it's basically her job to like run around and do these things like set up a fog machine in the woods, or like make creepy noises and just do weird things in order to like sell the haunting. But we are supposedly leading up to an incident where things get a little too real and a little too creepy, and she gets really freaked out. So we do have like inserts of like transcripts from the episodes, and I will say it's very cheesy, which I don't know, depending who you ask, that's just how like ghost hunting TV shows are in general, but it is very cheesy. And like I said, I'm still not fully sold on the idea of this TV show, and I think they're in like the, I don't even know, I want to say like the 5th, 6th, or like maybe even their 7th season. Like, they've been doing this for a while, so that's interesting to me. So far though, we have seen our main character go on like 2 different jobs, and she's just finishing up like her 2nd one, but there's also been multiple ones between the 2 that we've followed her on. They pretty much do like 1 per week, and they spend the entire week filming the episode, and then they post it, and then they go on and they spend another week at a different place. So the transcripts that we are getting throughout the book are from a different episode, and I'm assuming that's the one that we're going to eventually get to, and then it's going to be like, oh my god, all these weird things are happening. But I'm just like at this point, I'm a little bit worried about the pacing. This book is Oh, it's 159 pages, and I'm on page 90, and we haven't even gotten to like the main event yet. And like I said, we have followed her on these other jobs so that we can kind of get a feel and an idea of like what she does, what the show is, but ultimately, like, I don't know if that's really necessary to the actual plot of the story and to this actual big job that we're leading up to. So it does seem a little bit weird that more than half the book has just essentially been like build up. So I'm kind of worried about where things are going to go in the last, what, like 70 pages. There's really not a lot happening so far to talk about as far as like haunted houses go, because everything that I've read so far has been them like creating the hauntings and has been a hoax, and then hopefully pretty soon we'll get to where things start to get real, and I'm hoping that it gets crazy and creepy and weird, but I'm just not really sure how to feel about it just yet. It does say in the synopsis that Haunt Sweet Home is a multifaceted supernatural exploration of finding your own way into adulthood and into yourself. And I can definitely see like where the author is trying to do that with building some of the backstory for our main character. We have learned a lot about her family, specifically with her grandmother, and her grandmother was a wood carver and would carve all these intricate sculptures, and she has learned a lot from her grandmother, and she is trying to kind of figure out things. Like, she's a little bit older than people would expect for the job that she's in, and she's not really entirely sure what she wants to do. Like, she's in school, but she's just still finding her way. So I'm sure we're gonna get some sort of character arc with her, probably overcoming something big with this haunting that occurs. But I don't know. Like, I really don't have very strong feelings towards anything right now. I will say, like, it's interesting. It's keeping me engaged. It's holding my attention. I have just been sitting and reading this pretty much like in essentially one sitting for me. It's kind of funny, this is like totally a tangent, but for me, I never say books are like a one sitting book for me, because like I'm always getting up. Like, I like to get up and get water, and then I get up and I go to the bathroom. Like, I like to take breaks when I'm reading, even though it may be the type of book that is very fast paced and quick and I can read it in one sitting. I'm just not that type of person. But this is that type of book if you are that type of person. I'm gonna get back to reading. I'm going to finish this tonight. Like I said, I've got about 70 pages left, so I will let you know my final thoughts, because right now I don't really have any thoughts because it's not really like ghostly yet. I'm back. I finished the book. I did not like it. This is gonna be another 2-star book for me. And honestly, like, I really don't have a lot to say. This feels like a book that was like written for children. Like, it does not feel, I don't know how to explain it, I don't know why, but it does not feel like it's a book that is for an adult audience. Like, the message in it is very simplistic, very cliche. It pretty much says it in the synopsis. It is also the type of book where there's like this one aspect of it that as soon as this thing was introduced, I was like, okay, like, this is what's happening. But we are led to believe otherwise, and it's clearly supposed to be like this twist or something that is shocking, that is supposed to make you stop and think for a second. But it was just one of those moments where, like, I feel like it's so painfully obvious what's going on, and then you're just sitting there and waiting for the book to tell you that's what's going on, and then you're like, yeah, I knew that. Like, I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like it was so obvious. And then, like, I'm like at a loss for words. Like, it wasn't horrible. Like I said, it held my attention the whole time, and there were parts of it that I did enjoy. It could be a lot worse, but in the end, it just wasn't very good. Like, it wasn't, that sounds so mean. But it just, like, wasn't good. Like, it wasn't a very good story. It wasn't a very good pacing. The writing was okay. The characters were okay. But, like, am I ever going to think about this again? No, probably not. I'm really sad that, like, the first 2 books that I read for this video were both 2 stars. Hopefully the next one will be better. Don't really have a lot to say about this. I don't think that it really fits into the like haunted house category. Like there is a haunting happening. I guess there is sort of a haunted house. There's a haunted something happening. So like, yeah, like there's like ghosts and paranormal things going on, but it's not really like a haunted house story. I feel very disappointed by this, honestly, because I feel like I had like high expectations for it. Like it was a new release that I was really excited to pick up and read, and now I'm just like what? Like what was that? This is like, I saw somebody on Goodreads compare it to like Goosebumps, because they were like, the story pretty much does like what Goosebumps does. And I was like, yeah, honestly true. And that definitely aligns with my feelings that like this doesn't feel like a book for an adult audience. It feels like this is something you would give like a middle schooler, like who's trying to get into horror and wants to read something that's like a little bit spooky but also has like a nice message, a valuable life lesson at the end. And I just didn't enjoy it. Unfortunately, it didn't work for me. So please send me all your good luck for book number 3, even though I'll find out before you guys do if it's good or not. But just send me your prayers. Send me your good vibes. We'll see. Hi, and welcome to book number 3, which is another novella. This is House of Rot by Danger Slater. First of all, can we talk about that name? Because like, I don't know, I just think it's so funny. Anyways, I've been reading this today. I am 57% of the way through. It is 125 pages and I am on page 73 at the moment, so I will be finishing it shortly. But this one is definitely, like, so far is going better than the other two. I don't know. I was gonna say that, and then I started to say it and I was like, well, is it really? Because I don't really have strong feelings towards it. How many times am I gonna say that in this video? Like, when am I gonna get a book that I actually like have feelings towards and thoughts towards? Anyway, in this one we are following this couple, Elena, I think that's how you pronounce her name. It's spelled kind of weird. Elena and, what is the guy's name? His name is Miles. So we have Elena and Miles, and they have just moved into this new apartment and everything seems fine. It seemed like a good deal. The rent was pretty good, although like they described the square footage and the rent that they pay, and in my opinion that's not a good deal, but for these people it was a good deal. And pretty much after the first night, during the night, they hear these footsteps and they hear somebody walking around the apartment, but they go out and they turn on all the lights and there's nobody there, so they eventually just go back to sleep. And then the next day they wake up and they find in their bathroom, underneath the bathroom sink, a whole bunch of mold that is spreading in the bathroom cabinet. So they're like, well, that's not good. Like, we should probably call somebody about that. And then the next day happens, and when they wake up the next day, all of the mold has spread and is essentially covering like all of the walls in their apartment. It's covering the windows and it has jammed the door. So they are stuck in the apartment, and now we are on day 3, and each night they hear these footsteps and then they wake up in the morning and the mold is significantly worse. They have a very strange neighbor that comes to visit them and like talks to them through the door, but is not really doing much to help them. And he's basically like, oh yeah, like this is normal, like this is nothing, it's fine, like think of all the other people that have it worse, like you guys are fine, you'll learn to live with it. Meanwhile, they're stuck in their apartment. Like, the mold has like jammed the doors and all of the windows, and anytime they try to clean it or get rid of it, it just comes back stronger and grows very rapidly, and so they're just like stuck inside. And I feel like, okay, they're starting to panic a little bit now, but like, why? I don't understand. Like, they seem very, very calm. Like, if that was me, I don't think I would be able to like sleep. Like, I would have a hard time doing anything. Like, I would just be freaking out and trying to get out. But these people are like, the first day that they discover that they're stuck inside and the door's jammed and they can't get it open, they're like, oh well, what are we gonna do? Let's start unpacking. And then they're unpacking all their stuff, and I'm like, why are they unpacking their stuff if there's mold everywhere? Like, wouldn't the mold then spread to all of your belongings? And wouldn't you be putting your belongings in a dirty apartment? That just like didn't make sense to me. And they were just like entirely too chill in this situation. And to me, it doesn't make any sense because I would not be as calm as these people. But now they are finally starting to panic a little bit and their mental status is deteriorating, and I'm very curious to see where it goes from here. I think it's just gonna get weirder and I am enjoying it. I like things that have to do with like the themes of this, like fungi and mold and decay and rot and all of that. I just think it's really fun. There are a lot of different books that I could point out that do incorporate this element, and they have so far, from what I can remember, have been things that I enjoy. So I'm curious. I'm just not entirely sure about the choices of the characters at this point, but I am curious to see like how far the book goes. And I'm also very curious because like they have this neighbor that is a little bit unhinged, but like obviously is able to leave his apartment and like function in the outside world. And so I'm like, where, like what's going to happen here? Is the mold going to consume them? Are they going to become the ghosts that are walking around during the night and the next tenants are going to come in and it's just like a cycle? Or are they going to break out of this somehow? I don't really know, but I'm excited to see where it goes. So obviously the cover art for this is really cool. I'll pop up like the color version here so you can see what it really looks like. There's also illustrations inside after like almost each of the chapters, which was unexpected, but I'm very pleased with it. I love when there's illustrations, especially in horror books. I just feel like I wish more horror books had weird little illustrations in them. I'm finished with House of Rot. I need a blanket. I'm cold. I don't know why. I just started recording and I got chilly. Do you like my spiderweb blanket that I got from Walmart, I think? Anyways, with that settled, I want to start off by saying that I'm really glad that I got to read this for this series, because not only is it a haunted house book, but it also has body horror and it also has eco horror with the whole like mushroom, fungi, mold thing that's going on. So I just think that's really fun because those are two other subgenres that I've done videos for within this series. This has been on my TBR and I still got to read it for the series, just for a different subgenre, which is really, really fun. But yeah, the body horror was definitely there. It was definitely disgusting and nasty at some points, and I was like reading this while I was eating my dinner and I was like, this is so gross. And then I was reading a particularly gross part and I bit into my burger and a pickle, and the pickle was like all soft and squishy, and when I was reading I was like, this is so nasty. I'm stuck between giving it 3.5 stars or 4 stars. I'll probably let it sink in and then pop up my rating in editing what I finally decide on, because I did enjoy it. I definitely enjoyed it more than the other 2 books that I've read so far for this, but I also feel like I'm in like a weird reading mood recently where I've not been having very strong feelings towards like anything that I've been reading. Like everything that I read has been like 3 stars, 2 stars, 3.5 stars maybe, and I'm like, I don't really have strong feelings about anything. And I feel like that's the same way with this one, but I did enjoy it more than some other recent reads. It was certainly weird, it was certainly nasty, and it was also like, I would definitely say it's haunted house, but it's a very unique haunted house, and I like the direction that the story went, and I like the way that it ended, specifically with like the ending illustration that kind of really tied the whole story together, and I really liked it. And we're just like, it's about what's happening to these people, but it's also about their relationship together and what they want in their lives and what they want for their future and how they see their future together. With a family and just with them being together. They are newlyweds, so there's a lot of growth that they have to do within their relationship, and then there's a lot of fungal growth that happens as well. Overall, I would recommend this. It was a quick read, it was humorous at times, it was nasty at times, it was strange, and it just went by very fast. It was definitely surreal horror and a lot of body horror, as I mentioned. Weirdly enough, When I did my body horror video, I read a book called The Cipher, which I actually did not enjoy. I didn't enjoy the writing style, but the story was fine. But I feel like if you liked that one, you could like this book, and vice versa, obviously. I just feel like those are two books that are comparable in different ways. So if you've read The Cipher and you enjoyed it and you're looking for something that maybe has some similar vibes, I would definitely pick this one up and give it a try, see how you like it. If you want a body horror, pick this up. If you want weird mushroom things, pick this up. Hello, at the current time that I'm filming this, we just returned from our little trip. So I haven't read in a little bit. I have 3 books left to read for this vlog. We have Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas, Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey, and Hell House by Richard Matheson. But having not read for the last couple days, I don't know which one I feel like starting first. So I've decided I'm going to sit down and read the first chapter of each of these, and then I'll give you guys an update and my thoughts on each of those first chapters. And then I will let you know which book I've decided to continue on with for this reading vlog. So let me do that. I will see you guys very shortly. So the first chapter of Hell House by Richard Matheson was, I think, like 8 or 9 pages, and we get introduced to this main character who is a parapsychologist. So he has investigated different psychic phenomena, paranormal things, and he gets a job offer from this very wealthy man who offers him $100,000 to go to Hell House for 1 week and spend the time gathering evidence to prove that ghosts do exist and that the paranormal is real. And Hell House is this pretty notorious, like very popular, well-known haunted house. It is actually called the Belasco House, but obviously the nickname Hell House is because of horrific things that have happened there. Out of the people that have tried to investigate this house and the happenings in the past, only one person is alive who will also be joining our main character at Hell House, which I think is the most intriguing part to me because I want to know what happened to this person in the past and why they would choose to go back to the house after that. But we leave off the first chapter with our main character talking to his wife, and his wife wants to come with him to this investigation and stay at the house with him, and he's debating it because he's a little apprehensive because obviously this house has a reputation and he's just not sure how safe it will be. So the first chapter of Just Like Home was a lot shorter. This was like 5 pages. And I don't really know how I feel about the writing style. We basically have this main character. Her name is Vera or Vera. I don't know how you would say it. Vera, I think. And she is going back to her childhood home for the first time in a lot of years. I think possibly her mother is like sick or dying, and that's why she's returning home. It is clear that her father is no longer with them, and I don't know. It didn't really do too much for me just based off of the first chapter. So I'm going to put that one to the side. Next up is Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. So the first chapter of Catherine House was just about 40 pages, but I knew within the first few that this is the one that I was going to pick to read. It instantly drew me in. I've heard a lot about this book over the years, but mostly what I've heard about it is that it's weird, it's confusing, and not a lot of people like it. Like, it has a very low average rating on Goodreads, but I want to be one of the ones that gets it. Like, I hope this works so well for me, and so far it's doing really good. So Catherine House is this school, and it's like technically a college, but it's not like quite a college, and it's also like it's very prestigious and it's very, very hard to get in. Like the application process is very confusing and seemingly random, and it's just very, very selective. So a lot of people apply, not a lot of people get in. The ones that do get in, they are basically kind of like in this contract where they are there for 3 years. They get free room and board, but they can't leave the house until those 3 years pass and they graduate. And then everybody that has graduated from Catherine House has gone on to be extremely successful and extremely well known. So clearly, there are some secrets within Catherine House. It all feels very strange and culty and unsettling so far, and so I'm really excited to see how that expands. Our main character, her name is Inez, I think that's how you pronounce it, and her roommate at Catherine House is a girl that goes by the name of Baby, and I think we're going to focus a lot on their relationship and this female friendship. Maybe it could be something more, I'm not really sure, but I feel like the vibes are definitely there, and I'm just fascinated so far. It's also blurbed on the front by Rory Power, who wrote Wilder Girls, which was a 5-star for me. I really, really enjoyed that, and I feel like this is kind of giving some of the same vibes with just the weirdness and then this relationship between the girls. So I'm excited for that. This is going to be my next read for the video. So I will see you guys. Maybe I'll check in when I'm about halfway through and we'll see how it's going. Hello, I am back. I know I told you guys I would come back when I got to like the halfway point of Catherine House. I am now a little bit over halfway. I'm on page 179 on chapter Gerald, whichever chapter number that is. This is very long chapters in here. Anyways, I'm really, really liking this. So far it's giving me like Bunny vibes, and it's giving me like Rouge vibes. So just Mona Awad vibes, I guess. And I know Bunny and Rouge themselves are very similar, and I also just recently read Rouge, so maybe that's why it's like standing out to me. But it's just like the whole idea of this like very prestigious school where a lot of things are secretive, and we are following this very close-knit group of people navigating this and discovering things. And then our main character is also, I feel like, such an interesting point of view to read from because she's experiencing a lot of different things. She has a lot of complicated feelings that we're learning about, and she is almost getting to this point where she is starting to question herself, question her like mental well-being, question a lot of her memories, and just trying to figure out what she wants from life, and also navigating her friendships, and it's really, really fascinating. But that has me a little bit worried because I'm absolutely loving it this far into the book, and I know it's got so many low ratings, so now I'm like, oh my god, like the end could make or break it. Like this could be totally unhinged. It could be so fever dreamy that I don't know what the heck is going on. It could just abruptly end. It could like end in a stupid way, because I feel like it's going so well so far that I think the negative reviews have to do mainly with the end. So now I'm worried, but I am really excited to see where it goes. I'm just having a really good time, like being in the world is very, very atmospheric. I would say this is definitely like dark academia because it does take place at a school and there's dark things happening. It's just giving me that vibe. It's giving me like culty vibes. Once again, that friendship and a group of friends. Although the one criticism I will say is that I feel like a lot of the friends and a lot of the side characters aren't super well developed. Like there are definitely some that I'm still getting confused because I'm like, I don't fully know which person this is and what their personality traits are, but maybe that's just my problem. But I feel like they could have been developed just a little bit better, but you do learn more about their relationship as the time passes throughout the book and their relationships change and grow. It's really good. I'm also really, really loving the writing. This is a library book, obviously, so I can't tab or annotate it, but there have been multiple times where I pulled out my phone to take a picture, and I feel like that's how I know that I'm really, really enjoying the writing, like when I physically have to take a picture of it, because I'm like, this is too good. And it's really just been moments where she is just talking about a lot of her deep feelings and emotions that she's having towards certain situations, and I just love the way that things are worded. And I think for a lot of people our main character could be a very relatable character because she is going through that transitional period in her life where she's going to college, and obviously she got into this very prestigious selective school, so she knows like there's got to be something within her that's good, but she doesn't know what she wants out of life. She doesn't know what the heck she's doing, and she doesn't know really. She's making a lot of mistakes with her friendships and different relationships, and I feel like that could be really relatable to a lot of people. This is going really well though. I do plan to finish it tonight, so I will come back and give you guys my final thoughts. Fingers crossed that I like the ending because I'm a little bit scared, but we'll see how it goes. So I pretty much like just finished Catherine House a minute or two ago, and I'm really not sure what to make of it. I think I'm giving it 3 or 4 stars, and I don't really know if I'm going to talk about it a whole lot in here because honestly, like, this isn't a haunted house book. I don't know how it ended up on my list to read for this video. I think like when I was going through my TBR and I saw that it had the word house in it, I was like, oh, it's a haunted house book. But I swear, like, I read all of the synopses for the books that I was reading in this to make sure that they actually were haunted house and they didn't just have the word house in the title. So maybe I misinterpreted the synopsis or misinterpreted some sort of review, because I wouldn't really call this a haunted house book. Like, in some ways, yes, because it is about this school. It is about Catherine House, and it's about the way that it sort of haunts our main character and she sort of haunts it, but not like in a traditional way. Like, it's not like a paranormal, there's ghosts in Catherine House. It's just more of like a metaphorical thing. A lot of things are vague in here and very, very dreamy, hallucinatory, and once again, just metaphors for like everything. The ending as well is kind of ambiguous and you don't really get a whole lot of answers. I'm just not sure, because I loved the writing and I loved the atmosphere and I loved our main character, but once again, some of the side characters I feel like could have been developed a little bit more. And then there was also this whole aspect within Catherine House and the idea of new materials and something called plasm, and that's basically like the, how did they describe it? Like the material that is creation of life, like the material that is within everything. Like, if you look at the soul of a being and that is plasm, and then they were working within the school and doing different lab experiments and different research into plasm and how to use it to heal and change people, and it was really, really interesting, but also very, very vague the entire time. I kind of thought we were going to get more information on that as we build it up to the ending, but it never really went anywhere. I feel like not anywhere satisfying, at least, and I wish we got a little bit more into that, because there was some truly fascinating things like going on with that and with these lab experiments and the different test subjects that they had. So I wish that was explored a little bit more. Overall, I'm just like perplexed by this book. Like, I don't know what to make of it. I love the vibes, but I feel like nothing really happened in the book. So I think, I don't know, maybe a 3.5. I feel like that might sound correct, because like I enjoyed the reading experience, but now that it's over, I'm like, what was the point? Like, what even happened in this? I don't know. So I am actually about 65% of the way through Just Like Home now. I decided to choose this one as my audiobook. I think I mentioned this briefly on my channel, but I didn't like fully go into it. But basically, a recap: after the last hurricane that hit Florida, the apartment complex where I'm at, the fitness center, got flooded, and so it is still not open. But I used to go there after work and use a treadmill, so now I have been taking my walks outside, which is totally fine, but that means I'm consuming a lot more audiobooks, and I decided to pick this one up. as my audiobook for this week's walks. And like I said, I've gotten that far into it without really realizing. I stopped, let me show you this because this is literally criminal. I stopped in the middle of a chapter, which is like actually insane, especially within an audiobook. So I don't know exactly where I am, but somewhere around here. But I know I read the first chapter with you guys and told you a little bit about it there, but to go into it a little bit more, our main character, her name is Vera, and she is returning home to take care of her sick and dying mother. And apparently it says this in the synopsis, but I don't ever remember reading the synopsis for this book, but her father is actually a murderer. He was a serial killer, and he did a lot of horrible things within the basement of this home. So obviously, you know, being a child and learning that your father was a killer is going to lead to some lifelong trauma. So she just has a lot of complicated feelings coming home. She doesn't have the best relationship with her mother either, but she's just there to help take care of her until she passes pretty much, and then get the house ready, like clean stuff, donate stuff, get rid of everything, and just get everything tidy, because obviously her mother is weak and frail and in a state where she can't really take care of things. But now that she is staying there, she is experiencing a lot of strange things within the house, and she is also finding like notes that were left by her father, who is now dead, and so it's bringing up a lot of past memories. There's a lot of other weird things going on as well. Like the mother, as I mentioned, she's very weak, she's very frail, she can't do a lot of things for herself, but anytime Vera offers to help her, she's always like, no, it's good, I have a system, but like doesn't elaborate on what this system is. And there's definitely something weird going on there, and I'm really curious to figure out what it is. Like, I want to know what the system is, but it's just leading our main character to even more confusion and fear, being in this home, being with her mother, who she doesn't have a good relationship with. So we are following her in the present timeline, but we also get the flashbacks, and I think those are really interesting because we get to see Vera growing up in this household, and we get to see a lot of the family relationships, the relationships between her mother and her father, and then her and her mother, and her and her father, and all of her complicated feelings towards that, because she did have a really close relationship with her father, and there was a lot of love and caring there. And, you know, obviously that's going to be difficult as a child. You know, you look up to your parents and you see them as this protective figure, as this loving figure, and then to find out something like your father was murdering people in your basement is definitely going to be like a life-altering moment, and is going to lead to a lot of complicated feelings. So we are just getting a lot of that and a lot of backstory, and I'm really interested in it. Definitely more interested than I was after just the first chapter, and I am very excited to see where it goes. But that's where I am with this. I am pretty much almost done with it, so I will probably finish this tomorrow. I'll let you guys know my final thoughts. I don't really have a lot to say, except I am interested in it, and there's a lot of complicated relationships and interesting characters within here. So I did finish Just Like Home on audio, and I think I've decided I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I really did enjoy this one. I would say, to describe it, like, this really encapsulates the haunted house subgenre. Like, I think it does that very well. This is like indisputable fact that this is a haunted house book, and I really like the way that the story was told. I like the character that we had, and I enjoyed getting like the past memories and then also following her in the present day timeline. But I thought it was really fascinating, like, to go back and see all of the traumatic and horrific things that occurred in this house and that she witnessed while in this house, and how that has stuck with her for so long, and how coming back to the house is bringing back all those things. But then there's also a lot of paranormal elements happening as well. This is definitely a book, and I feel like this is true for a lot of books in the haunted house category, but the house in here, like, truly is a character in the way that the story is told, in the way that it comes off the page, and I really did enjoy that. I enjoyed the ending. I really liked where the story went. As far as the writing, I don't know, like, I've read another book by Sarah Gailey before, but the writing in this one I just wasn't the biggest fan of, and I'm not sure why. Like, it was well written, but it just wasn't to my personal taste, I guess. So I think it worked out really well that I picked it as my audiobook, because I think it was a lot easier to consume that way, at least for me personally. But overall, I would call this a win. I did enjoy it. I would recommend it. It's very unique, I'll say that. Like, it's not like any book that I've read before, and I definitely think if you are looking for something in the haunted house subgenre that is a little bit different than your typical story, then I would think that this would be a good one to pick up and try. Hi, sorry if this is not the greatest angle. I didn't feel like getting the tripod out, so you are balancing on a stack of books right now. I'm reading my last book for this video. This is Hell House by Richard Matheson. It's kind of funny because this is, first of all, the second Richard Matheson book that I've read ever. The second one this year, and then also both of the Richard Matheson books that I have read, I've read for this series on my channel. The other one that I read was I Am Legend. But this has been on my TBR for years. It was one of the first books that I added like on my Goodreads want to read when I made my Goodreads account. So I'm really glad to be finally getting to it. I have been reading this all day. I am on page 119, I think. So almost halfway through the book. I've been reading it on my Kindle mainly because it's on Kindle Unlimited, and my boyfriend got me one of those like gooseneck Kindle holder things, so I've just been snuggled up with a blanket using the remote to change the pages, and it's just been easier to read it that way. So in this book we have these 4 people that are sent to Hell House, or the Belasco house, which is basically this house with a very, very dark history. A lot of deaths and suicides and violence has occurred there, and they are sent there by this wealthy man because he wants to know, as he's nearing the end of his days, if there is life after death. So these people are there to kind of monitor that and see if there is paranormal experiences happening at this house. There have been a lot of things like documented, but this guy wants like the solid proof. So the characters that we have this woman named Florence, who is a pastor. I don't know the exact word, but she's like that. But she's also a like psychic medium, so she is having a lot of experiences within this house. 2 of the other characters we have one who is a doctor who is a parapsychologist. I think that's what it is. But he basically has experience with a lot of psychic phenomena, and he is there measuring that, and he has a very scientific approach to everything. Like, he doesn't believe in ghosts, but I think like everybody in the house acknowledges and accepts that these things are happening, but some people attribute that to ghosts, to the spirits of the people that have died there, versus the doctor who looks at it from a scientific point of view. Along with the doctor is his wife, who doesn't really have like a career with this stuff, but she just wants to be there to be with her husband. And then our 4th character is an ex-psychic medium, and he was involved with an investigation at this house like 30 years prior, and he was, I think, like the only person that survived that, and now he's back with this new group of people, which is very interesting because he's very like scared of the house, but he still chose to go back, and I don't quite understand why. So obviously like this whole setup is not very original. It's been done many times. I mean, if you think of like most famously, The Haunting of Hill House has a general premise that is very similar to it, but this one, like, things are definitely very dark and sinister, and there is a lot of malicious intent behind the occurrences that are happening within the house, and things are escalating as we go. And I've heard that this book gets very, very dark and goes into some really brutal, creepy, possibly triggering territory. So I can definitely see that happening because we do have a good chunk left, and like I said, it's just progressively getting more and more with these occurrences. But right now it's not doing anything crazy for me. Like, it's interesting, there are some parts that I'm enjoying, but then there's other parts where like my eyes are kind of glazing over as I'm reading, because I'm like, okay, like this isn't anything new. So I'm excited for it to pick up. I don't really feel any particular attachment to any of these characters just yet, and I wish that the atmosphere was a bit richer. Like, I want to know more about the descriptions of Hell House and what it looks like from the outside and from the inside, and the general feel of it, which I don't feel like we've gotten a whole lot. I think that's pretty much all I have to say for now. I just wanted to check in before I got super far into it because, like I said, I know that it's supposed to get dark and depraved, and I'm very excited for that to happen. We are in the full Christmas vibe over here, but I finished Hell House today. I've decided I'm gonna give it 3 stars, but honestly I don't have very strong feelings towards it. First of all, I do want to say that I'm really glad that I finally read it because it has been on my TBR for years, as I mentioned, so I'm really glad that I finally got to it, but I just didn't really have very strong feelings towards it. I did like the element, as I mentioned, where we have this one guy who is a parapsychologist, so he believes all of the activity and occurrences within the house are the result of residual energy, and so he's approaching everything very scientifically with his research and his methods, his theory, and I really like that. But then we also have Florence, who is religious and she is a psychic medium, so she believes she is communicating with a specific spirit within the house, and she feels really connected to him, feels like he is trapped there, being held there against his will, and she really wants to help him. So it's just really interesting to see the two of them present their theories and present their reasoning for why they believe these theories and their evidences to support their beliefs. And it was really interesting because there's this constant rival throughout the book because you're wondering, like, okay, like, who's correct? Like, which theory is the right theory? By the end of the book, we're gonna learn who of these people was correct in their theories and get to find out, like, is it actually haunted? Is it just energy? Can the energy be cleared out? So I really did like that aspect, but the characters themselves, I feel like I didn't really feel strongly connected to. Like, they were a little bit dull. The book also did start to drag, like, through the halfway point, and then the excitement kind of picks up a little bit in the later half, where it really delves into a lot of, like, the sexual violence, like I was telling you guys a lot of reviews mention. But, like, as a story, it just, like, it was okay. I don't know. I feel like obviously this book was written in 1970, so to take yourself and put yourself in the mindset and in that time period, I'm sure that this was really shocking content, and it was probably nothing like anything that had been done before, and I can definitely see, like, why it had such an impact in the horror community, especially for being a haunted house novel. But unfortunately, like, in today's day and age, it's really not as crazy anymore. I definitely don't think this is my favorite haunted house novel. I don't think it's the best haunted house novel that I've ever read, but I am grateful for having read it, and that's really, like, all I have to say about it. For those that it works for, I'm happy for you. For me, it was just okay. Like, I don't know. Richard Matheson, I don't know if I fully like his writing, but who knows, maybe I'll read another one of his books in the future. But for now, that was Hell House, and that brings us to the end of the video. So I will end it off with the Christmas vibes. Happy December, first of all. I am manifesting a fantastic reading month for all of us, the last month of the year. I hope you get all of the cozy holiday vibes that you're looking for, if that is something you're seeking, and I just hope you have a great month, and I hope that I do too. But with all of that being said, that brings us to the end of the haunted house vlog. So thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you guys next time.